You're listening to the Meet the Farmers podcast with me, your host, Ben Eagle. Please remember to subscribe to the show wherever you are listening. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 272 of the Meet the Farmers podcast with me, Ben Eagle. Today, we're in Flintshire in North Wales, meeting first-generation sheep and cattle farmer George Sturla, who farms with his partner Holly. Starting with just 7 sheep in 2016, the couple have expanded their numbers over time and are now sitting at about 100 breeding ewes and around 40 to 50 cattle. They deliver beef and lamb boxes to local customers, which they've been doing since October 2022. George didn't grow up on a farm, but his childhood summers were spent on his grandfather's farm in North Wales, and he later graduated from the Royal Agricultural College, university today, with a degree in rural land management. He started his career with Stratton Parker, but in 2016, he left his land management career behind in favour of farming, starting his livestock venture alongside a full-time job as a sales representative in the farming sector. George, welcome to Meet the Farmers.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, great to have you. Where shall we start? Let's start with this idea. So you didn't grow up on a farm, but your grandfather had a farm?
Yeah, so I suppose I spent a lot of my time. I used to do a lot of eventing and riding horses, and then went to uni. But yeah, I just grew up on the farm. I'd go and spend a week or two with my grandparents every summer, and then we'd go see them at Christmas time, and my uncle used to drive past my grandparents' house at about 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. I'd be there at the gate, jump on his lap, sitting, driving to go out and help him feed the cows. And then when we were moving, because my dad's civil engineer, we moved around the UK a lot. So we spent, I suppose, about 2 months at my grandparents. So I'd do some lessons in the morning at home, and I spent all afternoon out on the farm and just loved it.
Okay. So you got the bug at quite a young age then?
Yeah, definitely. And then at the time I thought, oh, mum and dad can't buy me a farm. I didn't really think there was any other way into it. And then until I went to uni, pretty much.
Okay. Tell me about your Cirencester days.
Well, I could probably tell you half of what we got up to. But no, it was great fun. I got friends for life. We're getting married next year. My best man was from there. I was from college. I was his best man. We had a lot of fun, learned a lot, friends for life. Yes, the degree I did, yes, it was gained for land management, but everything else I learned while I was doing the degree has set me up for farming, from running a business at home, of understanding the letting side of things, because obviously our farms are all let. So
Yeah.
I understand a bit about all the procedure of that, which is very helpful, especially when negotiating.
Yeah, because I say we'll get on to sort of your current land holding and how that works in a bit. But yeah, I mean, it's always interesting, I think, speaking to that there are oddly quite a lot of land agents actually who make that shift into farming. Probably fewer maybe going the other way. But tell me a little bit about your early career in land management.
So yeah, I worked for Struts in Chester. It was mainly office based, and I didn't like being sat behind a computer all day.
Yep.
I went and did a bit of work for the Levyhulme estate, which is run by Struts, and I really enjoyed that. But they were changing how things were going, so it wasn't going to fit. With that part, I really enjoyed, because I was out seeing farmers, seeing tenants, and getting your hands dirty as such. Structure was good. I learned a lot, but it just wasn't for me.
Hence why you decided to buy some sheep.
Yeah. So yeah, I bought so there's a very we call him John Gronant, but he's 88 now. He's just retired from farming. And he took me to market, gave me
Right.
some pointers of what to buy and what not to buy. Very kind of him, brought them home for me as well. And they just went into a neighbour's field. and then we borrowed a ram, and then they kind of grew from seven and just multiplied every year. Yeah, we kept retaining the ewe lambs and grew.
Okay. The mules or something else or
So yeah, these were just a mixture of all sorts, pretty much seven. Like yeah, so there was what was it? Yeah, I think there's Suffolk meals. I think there might have been, and then there were some cleans in there. Then I borrowed a friend's clean ram, and I like the clean breed, so we went down that route. And that's where 95% of the flock is today,
yeah.
generates from.
And when you were starting out, did you have a long-term vision for the business? Why did you start?
My goal is still goal today is to be farming full time. That's what I want to do. I want to bring my kids up in that world. I've seen, well, my partner's family, how she grows up with with their parents all day long. I think it's nice to be outside all the time. So that's the plan. When I started, I think it was just, we'll see where we go. But
Okay.
now I can seeing the opportunities. Yeah, that's the plan is to get to it full time. But
Yeah. And you said the initial flock, I'm going to call them that. They went into a neighbour's field, but how has as the flock has grown, how have you managed that land and how have you acquired land?
so, we started off, it was all neighbours and family friends. And then I was very lucky, the block of about 40 acres came up in the next door estate. So it was about half a mile away. So we've taken that on. And then that's pretty much, I ended up getting pockets of land in certain places for short periods of time. But yeah, our main block is on a grazing license every year for a local estate. We are looking for more, but it's like gold dust around here.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, and that's the thing that you hear everywhere, isn't it? And it's why I'm always keen to ask people who have managed to almost get that holy grail and get the land, how they've gone about it, because it's often said that yeah, access to land is the main stumbling block really for new entrants. Did you have to wait a while? Did you ask lots of people? How did you go about it?
So I knew that the tenant who was where I am now was leaving. So I literally just picked up the phone to the landlord. Luckily, I kind of knew him through family friends, so it was a bit of a help, and it just worked out. And I had 40 acres, and the next door neighbour had the big chunk of it, and that's how we went about that. I've got another piece of land that was had been overgrown for like 5 years. I found out who the owner was. That turned out to be a development company, and it was Liverpool. I just phoned them up, and they said, "Yeah, happy to let you use it until they want it back." So it's kind of being, I just if you see a field that's overgrown, why is it overgrown? Probably because it's either owned by a development company or someone who doesn't really want to manage it, and most of the time they're happy for you to manage it and take it on and just make it look tidy. As long as you keep it tidy, sometimes you can get it for free or just a small rent just to show willing.
That is good advice. Keep your eyes open in the countryside. So how has the business sort of grown and developed, and you've obviously grown your numbers. You got some cattle at some point as well.
Yes. So being in the job I am, selling and doing nutrition for beef and dairy farmers, I kind of thought, oh, calves, they look like a good way to get into it and not too expensive, 100 to 200 quid for a calf. So I started with a few of those. Um, that's what we're doing mainly. And then I've always wanted to have a small suckler herd. So we kept some of the heifers back, put them into calf about, I think they were 18, 19 months of age, and then calved them down. We AI'd for the first 2 years, and now we hire a bull in. And that grew. So first of all, we're mainly just doing calves, sending them to market. And then this is kind of where the beef and lamb box scheme started, mainly because
Okay.
markets are so up and down. We were like, I was always one day I'd be really happy, one day I'd be like, oh, I think I should have done a lot better. And then Holly, my partner, said, well, I've had enough of you being like that. Let's just go and build direct.
Yeah, and would you say, I mean, if we just sort of think about challenges in terms of getting started and growing in those early years, is price at the heart of it, or is there something else?
To get going, yeah. obviously you need to make a return on your investment, which is the main thing. They've got to be profitable, which is sometimes harder than you think. You've got to keep track of your costs. And when you are small, it's harder. It doesn't seem like it's like anything when you're small, it doesn't seem like it is happening. And you end up putting more money into it. And like
Yeah,
all these things, it's all well and good just go and get 7 sheep, but how do you get them into a pen? You've got to go and buy hurdles,
yeah,
lambing
exactly.
time. You've got milk bottles. You've got all sorts of harnesses. It's just endless, and it is still going now. But you just don't think of these things until you've got them.
Yep. But once you're
Yeah.
set up, you're there.
So yeah, and then you get like hay. Oh, then you get bigger and you go, oh, I need to feed them hay. I need to feed them, get some straw. Oh, I need something to lift those hay bales with.
Yep. There's always more costs coming in.
Yeah, the shopping
There's
list is
also always
endless.
something else to buy.
Yeah, and I quite like my kit, but Holly always tells me off saying, no, no.
What about your approach to, and I suppose, I mean, I'm thinking more about where you're going as well, and part of that vision. If you were, so if you imagine that you are at that day when you're full-time farming, what does that look like?
So full-time farm, I suppose the farm's gonna have to be, we're gonna have to nearly 5 to 10 times the size we are now, I suspect. Not just as if I suppose if we weren't selling direct. We still the plan is to keep selling direct, and hopefully that will grow as we grow. So I suppose the plan is to get to about 500 ewes, maybe 100 cattle, 100 sucklers is the plan. And if we can get to a point where we're killing 2 cows a week would be ideal. We're about 1 to 2 a month at the moment, which is
Yeah.
growing amazingly. But that's the plan.
Yeah. Well, what was the hardest thing, I suppose, about getting started with direct selling?
So yeah, the lambs was easy because you just we found out where we wanted to go. We were already finishing lambs as we were. Beef, it's a hard bit because lambs you can finish in, well, spring lambs can be done in 10 weeks,
Yeah,
up to 6 months. Well, a beef animal, you're anywhere from 20 months to 30 months. So
absolutely.
you've got that long wait where we'd normally be selling the animal at anywhere between normally around 12 months to 16 months. So we've now had to keep that animal a whole year extra. So that was probably one of the hardest things. We've been on without that income for 12 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then trying to space those animals every month to go.
Yeah. And what about building the customer base as well? Did you sort of start with a hardcore and then it's grown since then?
So we work. Well, Holly's been great with this. That's kind of her little baby. But yeah, it was mainly through Facebook, tapping into all these little Facebook groups all over, all these little villages and hamlets and towns that all have these Facebook groups and just posting in there. And then it just gets out word of mouth. Luckily, some family friends try one and then some good reviews. And that's that's really been how we've quite grown quite quickly. We've been very lucky. We had Farming Connect helped us out with a mentorship of that.
Okay.
We had some articles written about us, which has been very helpful.
Yeah, I was going to
So
say they were also helpful for me when I was planning this interview as well.
yeah.
Um, so I mean, there's obviously you and Holly, and you've already alluded a bit to what you each do, but I mean, how do you divide those responsibilities between you, and what's it like working as a team?
Um,
Be
well,
careful here.
I'm Holly probably ideal of pressure. I'm more of a relaxed sort of person. We didn't dish out our responsibilities. We kind of did what fitted. Like Holly's admin's a lot better than mine. Mine's not the best. Um, so she's kind of a lot more organized and does all the orders, the social media. Luckily, we've got a website now, so that we kind of push people to that. So that takes in the orders for us and helps us a lot. And then I kind of try and do the bulk of the farm work. And if it's a big job, that's what weekends get busy doing that really.
Yeah, I was going to say because you're also working full time alongside these. So, how are you balancing both of those roles and juggling the commitments?
I suppose we've kind of tried to make ourselves as efficient as possible. So we invested in a wrapper this year, like it was just Prattly, effectively a mobile handling system, might be a bit way too big and what for what we need, but the amount of time it
It
saved
won't be
us.
soon.
No, it won't be soon. But the amount of time it saved and made us so much more efficient. We can go through multiple batches of sheep very quickly. Well, before it was taking half an hour to an hour to put things away. Yeah, yeah, it was taking a lot of time. So that has made us helpful. So I say is to anyone is try and be as efficient as you can because if you've only got 2 days of the week to do the bulk of your jobs, you want to be efficient because I can't leave work at 1 o'clock to go and do a load of dosing sheep or doing stuff with cattle, and I've got to
Yeah,
pre-plan my holidays around it. And then I suppose the other thing is just get up a bit earlier and have a
yeah.
good torch.
There is. I mean, that's also good advice. One thing that you've known farming for many, many years, and you almost, even though you didn't grow up on a farm, you practically grew up with it through your grandfather. So you've seen all this. But I think again, when you are entering the industry and you are doing what you're doing, you're balancing a job off farm with building your business and the farm there. Time is a real stress. It can be, can't it? So, I mean, what would you say to someone who is about to go down that line? Because I mean, it's totally worth it. I'm guessing you're going to say in the long run.
Yeah.
But what do you sacrifice by doing that?
Holidays, massively. I do get moaned at. We don't go on holiday a lot. You do miss autumn nations are on at the moment. I love watching the
Yep.
rugby. Unless the rugby's on at 5 o'clock in the afternoon at the moment when it's dark, I'm not watching it. Um, but you do miss things like that. We try and go to most events, but your time is what you're giving up effectively.
Yeah.
Advice, don't worry about having to fit all the jobs in one day. They will wait. Try and get the most important ones done. One thing we've done this summer is we've rotationally grazed, just mobbed everything up into two mobs. So we were only going to check two groups of stock every day, and we're just moving a fence. So what was now at the moment they're all because we split up the ewes into different groups of lambing. I've got to go and check 5 groups of sheep. Well, before over the summer, it's just 2 groups of stock. Made life a lot easier in and out. Then you can get lighter nights. You can get onto other jobs. If you want to go to the pub for the evening for a
Yeah.
meal, you have that time. Winter's a bit trickier, but the cattle are in the sheds in the winter, so it's a bit easier.
So, George, you have had some involvement with Farming Connect as well. You went to Canada as well, on a trip with them. Tell me about that link.
Yeah, so we're very lucky over here in Wales. We've got something called Farming Connect. So you can do many different courses. They helped us, gave us a mentor to start the beef box business up and lamb box business up. And another part is they have something called the Agri Academy. Every year, there's about 12 people across the Wales get invited to be part of that group. So a mixture of men and women from all over Wales. So first we met up in just in Corby. Went around a few farms, different farms there, beef farm, sheep farm, and some dairy farms we went to. And then we go to a challenge farm where we go and look at the farm. We do a presentation on what we think the farm should do to move forward. And then another highlight of the Agri Academy is we went to Canada for a week, which was amazing.
Mm,
So we went to Ontario. We should be seeing 6 to 8, 9 farms a day. So it was
wow.
pretty
Wow.
intense. And it was long nights, maybe not visiting farms, but in the town. But then yeah, visiting farms. So we went to a beef farm, arable farms, sheep intensive sheep farm. Went to pig farms. Interesting, a pig farmer went from intensive to organic and
Huh,
increased his output, which was very
interesting.
interesting.
Sorry,
We
that's a rabbit hole, but tell us a bit more about that.
So what he did is he reduced his number of pigs per square meter, and they just
Okay.
thrived so much better. They weren't being injected or all this. There wouldn't be, and then the pigs just got. Yes, it took them. I think it took them longer to get there, but they were getting bigger,
Hmm.
getting to this bigger weight, and it was pretty amazing. I think he did one pig where he got the it was a Guinness record, world record, I think, for something like the biggest pig or something. It was in New York, so it was pretty
That's
cool.
one
And it's
big
quite
pig.
yeah, and he's now got a farm shop, so it was quite. They went out this year, went to his farm shop. So that was pretty cool. We hired big Fords. I think they're F-150s.
Oh,
Those big
yeah,
trucks that they were
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
cool to fly around in. But yeah, very intense. Again, we've got a WhatsApp group. We always messaging. It's been pinging off while I've been on here. So it's great because if you ever got a question, we I'll ask one of them on there, what do you think of this? We're now using Innovis, our black top this year at home with the U's, and only a friend knew a bit about Innovis and said, "Oh, what do you think of that?" He goes, "Yeah, they're really good. All the data is fantastic behind them." So when use that, so just using tapping into different people's knowledge, and they're probably friends for life now.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, clearly it's just for people in Wales, but I mean, how do people get sort of involved with Farmer Connect?
So Farming Connect, every area's got a person you can go and speak to, so like the manager. So in Flintshire, we've got Gwen Pugh. She's great. I can phone her up if you want anything from business plan. So if you're going for a tenancy, you can go and you can get that 80%. I think it's 80% of that will be funded by the government for you to put a business plan or meet with someone, which is fantastic. Um, then they've got other things like you can do your chainsaw courses, sort of tractive courses, your spraying courses, shearing courses. The list is endless what you can do, and a lot of it is government funded. So if you're in Wales, take full opportunity of it because we never know, it might be gone. We don't know, we know the government is cutting some things, so take full advantage as you can. Especially with this new inheritance tax laws, I'd be phoning up your officer today, and taking full advantage of it.
Yeah. Well, any listeners in Wales, there is your call to action today. That's what you're doing. That's what you're doing today. Moving into sort of other areas, I'm sort of asking all guests who come on at the moment this because it's what everyone is talking about, and we've got this odd situation with this episode in that we're recording this a few days before I'm going to guess, I mean, hundreds, if not thousands, of farmers are going to descend on London on Tuesday. We don't yet know because it hasn't happened yet, although it will have done by the time this comes out, what the impact of that is. So, yeah, what is your take on the recent budget?
I'm just a bit disappointed on the government, really. They weren't my choice of government to come in, probably weren't the choice of a lot of farmers, government to come in. The fact that he turned out the other day what really bugs me and my partner is they want to reduce carbon by 20%, or is it reducing people eating meat by 20% because it's going to help the carbon, and they put meat and planes in the same sentence when farming and planes are polar opposites, which just really disappointed. I think how the countryside is grown around small family farms, and he's going to want to ultimately destroy that through disinheritance tax. It's just, and how they think £1 million the size of a small farm. We're lucky, well, not lucky as such. We're a tenant farmer, so that could affect us. It all depends on how my landlord's gone around
Absolutely.
structuring his estate, but it caused some headaches. There's already been some tragedies with people sadly committing suicide under this stress, and it's a horrible thing to happen to anyone. So I should say farmers are just digging. We'll get through it. Hopefully, in 5 years' time, things will be changed. But I think they've got to look themselves in the mirror, to be honest, these
I was going to
politicians.
say, can you see them rolling back on anything?
Once it's in, I think it's in, to be honest. I can't see another government changing it, but I can only hope. For the sake, Holly's family's a small family farm. Her grandmother's 90. Pray to Lord she lives for another 7 years, but something like that. It's just, and they won't be the only family farm in the same instance. You know,
Yeah,
You could find out you get an illness tomorrow and you have 12 months. Well, how can you can't forecast that? You could be 40 and take on the farm and get an illness. It's wrong in my eyes. But
Mm. I mean, as a relatively new farming business, I say new because yeah, the things take time, don't they, to build, even though you've been going 8 years. Um, how will this budget impact your business?
so you got the carbon tax in fertilizer. We don't use a lot, but we still need to grow forage for the cows. So that's going to implement us. To be honest, some of the inheritance tax isn't as such at the moment. To be honest, I haven't looked at the other bits which are going to affect us, but there's going to
Yeah.
be.
And all that, and like you said earlier, actually as well, depending on what happens with agricultural property relief and the others in the tenant sector, and this is a big thing the tenant sector is talking about, is that in many ways that land is still yeah it's not exempt, it's still involved. So the issue is the tenants don't actually have direct control over what happens to that.
No, no, exactly. And being on a grazing license, we can just be given a month's notice. If the landlord needs to sell, we could have 40 acres. We would probably have to, we give a month's notice. If we couldn't find anything, we've got to say goodbye to our stock, and that's pretty much our farming life gone.
Despite all that, where is the positive in farming at the moment? There are so many challenges out there, but give us some
Positive
positive, George.
positives. I think the public are behind us, been most part behind us more than probably any other time. I go to farmers markets, tell them what's going on, and they're disgusted, to be honest. But lamb price is fantastic. Milk is pretty good at the moment. Beef price has never been so good.
Yeah,
So prices we're getting, arable, maybe not. But on the livestock sector, I think, we can't really complain too much about that. Yeah, some of the costs are expensive, but so yeah, it's a good time. Well, I say it's a good time to be in it. There is positives coming out of it with that
yeah.
side.
I think we're going to move on to the final questions and wrap this up. The first is if you had a message for the public, any message, and I think these are particularly interesting at the moment and the times that we live in. What would your message for the public be, George?
Our message would be buy British, support local, or if you're in the supermarket, definitely buy British, support local farmers as much as you can because you need them 3 times a day if you be vegetables or meat.
And your message for farmers.
Farmers, hang on in there. It's only 5 years of hell with this government, but hopefully someone with an ounce of sense will get in and we'll get through there and live for another day.
Well, we will leave it there. But yeah, George, thank you so much for coming on the show. And yeah, just best of luck for building your business. And I have no doubt that you will fulfill that aim and get to, you'll be full-time farming. It's definitely sometime soon.
Perfect. Thank you very much for having me.
My pleasure. That is it for today. A big thank you to my guest, George Sturla, for coming on the show. Thank you also for listening. Next time, we'll be in Norfolk. I'll be just down the road and I'll be meeting Michael Bulls, the farm manager of the Crown Point Estate, which is just outside of Norwich. But for now, I'm Ben Eagle. This has been Meet the Farmers, and thank you very much for listening. Meet the Farmers is brought to you by RuralPod Media, the only podcast production agency to specialise in the rural sector. We're on a mission to make rural stories mainstream and help businesses, organisations, and communities like you tell your story through podcasting. Podcasting is a fantastic way of connecting with your audience, whoever that might be, getting your message out there and networking with leaders in your niche. RuralPod Media can help you by launching your new podcast or helping you with the technical side. We also provide podcast training and an audit service if you already have a podcast. You're not sure where to take it to next. For more information or to book a call, visit ruralpodmedia.co.uk. That's ruralpodmedia.co.uk.